Hello, everybody. I'm Ferris Broxton with the Spotlight. Today we have Josiah Roise, a candidate for mayor in Minot, North Dakota. Everyone's welcome to comment, but please be respectful. No profanity. Josiah Roise, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, I'm glad you're here today. We're rainy and ugly out there, but I saw you on the North Dakota Political Voice. That's what they claim to be anyway. I heard you say some things on there that were really profound. This was Rob Port. I watched Rob Port make a bunch of statements that I didn't think were true, and they were backed up by a prosecuting attorney. Brother, I think you got waylaid. Yeah. I saw something happen there that just really upset me so bad that I said, wait a minute, this guy is not... I thought what you were saying, you were really onto something. And I thought this guy that he had on was a prosecuting attorney. And then I found out he really is a prosecuting attorney.
It's funny that you say that because I didn't think he actually did a great job trying to put me in a corner like I could tell he was trying to do. And my comment right afterwards, I said they should have sent a prosecutor.
Yeah.
A prosecutor. I know a prosecutor. I'm like, oh.
They did. Let's go ahead and show who that guy is now right here. So we're gonna pick up a graphic of that. His name's Zach Ista. So this is what you got. You went on with Rob Port, and this was his co-host. I got it here somewhere, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize to you. I don't usually do this. This is not the way that I'm typically a spotlight on corruption, and I got a really important case I want the world to hear. But when I saw the media that won't cover the real story and what they did to you, man, I thought, wow, I got to have this guy on because you look like one of the good guys to me. I mean, you're late today, then that's just, I like your campaign. I like what you stand for. But if I'm going to sit here and publicly, point out the good things that I saw, we'll point that out.
Yeah, I was a little bit late. I was playing with the other good guys.
Well, good deal. So this is Zach Ista, who we have up on the screen. This was the co-host that Rob Port put you on with. Now, he is a prosecutor. He is the Zachary Milo Ista. He's an American politician that says, now this is straight off of Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And he's a speaker, representative, minority leader, not speaker, the House Representative Minority Leader from Grand Forks. And he's a prosecutor. It looks like he's an assistant state's attorney for Grand Forks County. So he works for the state's attorney. He works for Drew Wrigley is what this is.
Oh, yeah.
This is saying right here. So when I listened to what that guy said and what he did and what the stuff he tried to pull out to surprise you with and waylay you with, I was kind of shocked. I mean, they came back. They just did some things that I thought were messed up. But I want to hear about your campaign because right out of the gate they cut you off. You tell me what do you in a few words? What is your campaign? What are you all about?
My campaign is mostly around streamlining expenses to bring down people's property tax because that's something that affects everybody, while providing better services for them. And so kind of the same model as my own construction company that I've been running for a long time.
How long?
I started my business, I think, 14 years ago.
Okay, so you've been self-employed for 14 years, and you haven't had to take a job with anybody else or do anything other than just work for yourself.
Just work for myself. I took some side jobs when times were slow, like in the winter, like when we shut down, just kind of for fun.
Oh, yeah. I've done it. I did it, brother. I mean, I ran a lawn maintenance company my whole life until I was attacked by corrupt government.
Yeah.
I mean, but I know what that entails. If you run your own company, you have to be able to do everything.
Everything.
Yes. You have to if there's anything that doesn't get taken care of, ultimately the company is going to fail. You have to be able to solve any problem. So that to me, and I know that about you because when I checked you out, man, as soon as I saw it, I was like, who's this guy? And I looked you up and I found some crazy stuff online.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely crazy stuff. I found where somebody set up a fake website and got on and called you the most heinous thing they could have called you. And then there was a bunch of people that came on and gave it all thumbs up, acting like somehow that was a true thing, a true statement. And I'm like, wow, there's a whole bunch of people that have conspired to make this guy. And so I looked and I saw who you were and I saw you had a company and, I read the reviews and everything. And I'm like, so you got two different things. You got the honest person and then you got somebody that wants to present them. The honest person had good stuff to say about you, and then you had this group of conspiring people that were making up a story that just wasn't true.
And they would baseless.
And, well, they wouldn't even claim who the person that led it. Wouldn't you know? I'm just like, wow. So there's, I mean, right out of the gate, I could tell that somebody was conspiring against you. I thought that was pretty loud. And
that didn't surprise me, but what did surprise me was how many people bought into it. I guess I gave too much credit. I overestimated people's intelligence and their kind of their BS radar, if you will, because like COVID 2020, for example, I thought that would have taught a lot of people a lesson not to just believe whatever you hear. Like, oh, there's so many people dying of this, and you need to wear a mask, otherwise you'll die. It's like, I thought people learned from that. Well, and so when you see somebody without a face, without a name, just some bot account make a claim like that, I was like, as soon as somebody told me, like a few months into last year's campaign, they said, hey, look at this screenshot. I'm like, so? Who cares?
It didn't bother you.
Yeah, who's going to believe that?
And that's what impressed me, especially in your interview with the voice of North Dakota politics, was those guys are just throwing eggs at you, and laying. I mean, they're smiling and acting like they're all nice and kind, and, polite, but it was a great big trap. And you were able to answer all their questions and respond. And I said, okay, I can see through this. I think a lot of people can't. I think a lot of people don't know. But I think they also have a group that's planned to do just that.
Yeah, a group that's planned to comment and stuff. And it's like there's people, some people that are on my side, will like send me screenshots and be like, maybe you shouldn't go onto these things anymore. Look at all the hateful comments you're getting. I said, those guys are waiting like a spring trap.
Yep.
And it wouldn't matter what I say or don't say. They're going to go on there and make fun of me. So there's no point. But for the smart people that are actually paying attention, have some critical thinking skills, they can kind of sift through that and see what you saw.
Is that better?
But as far as the business model that I was talking about before, what I was getting at as running for mayor and comparing it to my own business is delivering a better product at a better price than the other guys. Now, who are the other guys in this case? It's the competition. If I want people to be happy and thrive in Minot, I need to compete with other cities. Yeah.
Well, I saw what you ran on, and I thought it was good, because what I saw, you can come on over here, reach if you need to. You can push on this. Is that, okay. So yeah, sorry if you can't hear Josiah very well. We're working on it.
I can bring the microphone closer.
I
project. I speak loud.
There you go. All right. So by their own standard, these guys, like, your story was what was so amazing to me. So Josiah Roise, they're saying you had a problem with police, and Josiah explained, and they said, oh, okay, well, we're not even going to let you go any further. Like, you got involved in politics because you were wronged. That's why I got involved in politics. And you're saying, I got the solution. The solution is transparency.
Yep.
Accountability and transparency is what you came out and said. That's my, spending, responsibility, accountability, and transparency. And so I look at that and I said, wow, this guy's doing the same thing on the local level that I'm trying to do on the national level. And there's a group of people that are literally conspiring to control the news thread. Yeah. They're trying to control who can be heard, which candidates can be heard, and they have all these like fine-sounding arguments that don't make any sense. I mean, your argument was, we want to have a sheriff that's accountable. We want to have somebody that is an elected official. And I'm sitting there looking at it being like, wow, we've got a national investigation. Biggest investigation in this country. It's been going on for 10 years. And it's going on because people haven't been held accountable. And everybody's screaming for accountability. And I'm like, well, if our FBI director was elected, then the citizens could vote him out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what you're saying is, if our sheriff, which our sheriff is elected, but if the local police was combined with the sheriff's department, then we wouldn't have a problem that would help, transparency. People would be able to see what's going on. So I want to talk just a little bit about your case, because I picked up a little bit on it, but it sounds like you've got a civil rights case in federal court because of something that happened right here in Minot. You got two.
I got two.
All right. Tell me about the one right in Minot. What happened? Just a real brief.
Well, it's twice in 1 month, actually.
Okay.
So, in brief nutshell, I work in Florida in the winters. I used to. At this time that happens, so my house is rented out. I come back from Florida. I got a new guy that started working with me, and he's with me, and I had my house rented out in Minot, so it's like for the time being, for just a couple of weeks until they were out, because they came back sooner than expected for work. Okay. And so my parents, offered up their spare rooms and stuff, so I could stay. Me and my new employee, that was very trusting, could stay with them for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Well, in that time frame, he did some shady stuff, driving my vehicle and stuff. Anyway, he like built a pipe bomb, went out of town with it, and blew it up out in a field somewhere. He was a vet.
Oh, weird.
Well, he's a vet, and he liked fireworks. He was asking me about fireworks. I'm like, there's no fireworks available now. Well, lo and behold, I guess there was an investigation and stuff into that. He did drive my truck and all that stuff, and this is probably information that we could have skipped. But the point is, nobody was harmed. There was nothing really wrong, but the police got a warrant to search my truck because he was driving my truck.
Okay.
Well, that's fine. They pulled me over. They got a warrant for the truck that I was driving because I had two work trucks, one that I drove, one that he drove. They pulled me over, got a warrant for the truck I was driving. They had a warrant for the truck that he was driving. I wasn't using that at that time. I left it at my parents' house, parked on the street. You know, not even on their property.
All right.
They got a warrant to search that truck. When they went down there to search that truck, they didn't even knock on the door. My mom was trying to leave and go run an errand, and there was cops outside the door, grabbed her by the arm, yanked her, put her, a male officer, body searched her, didn't tell her what was going on, put her in the back of a cop car, and the police continued to raid and search my parents' house for about 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
And talk about Fourth Amendment violation much? They had a warrant for the truck, had nothing to do with my parents, had nothing to do with the house. But that was also, for the time being, my residence where I was staying, because I hadn't moved back into my house yet. They took my laptop computer. They already said on the record I was not a suspect of anything. But they went in and they saw these couple of laptops on the table, and they said, "Is one of those laptops Josiah's?" Now my mom should have, you know, in hindsight, just said absolutely nothing at all. But she goes, "Yeah, the gray one is his." Well, they sat down, tried to hack into it and do their thing, and when that wouldn't work, then they brought it to the sheriff's office.
Okay.
Because they apparently had a better hacker or something. And long story short, when all this is said and done and they violated them, it's like I've even spoken to different law enforcement professionals about it. And even when you're searching for something, because they were searching for things that were clued to making the pipe bomb, you know, and they searched my parents' house.
But they didn't have any. But that wasn't. You didn't have a warrant for you. They just.
No.
They didn't have any reason to go in your parents' house. They didn't have a warrant to search their house.
All the guns. We don't register firearms in North Dakota. They documented the serial numbers of all the guns. They did everything. They searched every drawer.
They come and took your property.
Yeah, and then a second time later in the month, they did it again in a different private business that I was at that belonged to a friend of mine. They came in, stormed back door, front door, swatted me, came in with flashlights and stuff, and pointed guns at my chest. 12 days later. So it's like we're talking like just harassment.
But you weren't a suspect, and they didn't have a warrant.
They even said I wasn't a suspect in that. But
you hired somebody that made a big firecracker, and they decided to pour a whole bunch of money into investigating and stepping way over the bounds and trouncing on your rights and your parents' rights.
Well, my story with the police goes way back before that, back to the flood of 2011. It's like we're talking years and years of harassment.
Well, listen, I've seen plenty. And that's what we get into in here. And this is what I know is a fact. I know for a fact that I'm an eyewitness in the nation's top investigation.
Yeah.
And the local FBI. So in other words, when the guys at the top are corrupt, the guys below them don't have much, you know what I'm saying? They watch these guys steal all day long, and the guys at the bottom start saying, "Hey, wait a minute, why am I doing?" The system is horribly corrupt. We got a lot of good cops, but we need the upper echelon to be transparent and to be seen.
And the training. Because right now, the attitude shift towards me, the reason that my police problems, if we want to call it that, started was simply because I learned my rights and I would stand on them. And so what I've been told since then is you just obey whatever a cop tells you, no matter what. That's what cops have told me. And I'm like, dude, that's not the law.
Right.
I want you to obey the law. I'm going to obey the law.
Yeah, I'll respect you. I'll do what you say. But
within the law.
Right.
And I've told them that. I'm like, when they're like, get out of the vehicle or, you know, whatever, I'm like, hey man, whatever I'm legally obligated to do, I will do. But the things what's within my rights, I'm going to hold on to and I'm going to protect that. Wow. And if you have a problem with that, then you're going to be the one breaking the law.
Right. Yeah.
That's very simple.
Yeah. No, I get it. The case they talked about on what I saw you on I heard a little bit about that, and that's the federal lawsuit, but they were also talking about searching vehicles, and that's what and I was like, man, I have seen this. I've like been through this. You talked about a time when police pulled you over and wanted to search your car, and you were like, no, I'm not giving you permission to search my car. Your new truck. What kind of truck was it?
Well, it wasn't new. It was used, but I just got it. It was a 1999 GMC Sierra with a 454.
Oh, it was big block.
Big block
Big,
truck.
cool, big block truck.
Yeah,
Okay.
aftermarket
That's what. Yeah.
exhaust.
So
Yeah.
that's what. And see, I've seen this. I've seen this so many times. I lived it. I used to have a hot rod truck. I had police officers try to steal that truck from me twice. The third time they got it. And when they got that truck, when they stole it, they got another truck with it. In this case here, they literally got, I mean, they stole everything I had. They didn't, it was, but here's how bad the corruption was. I didn't even understand. They were trying to set me up, the feds, at a higher level for a wrongful imprisonment settlement. They were trying to make me rich. Like, I mean, it was that corrupt. We're going to steal everything you have, pay off the cops with it, and then we're going to hold you wrongfully in prison, wrongful imprisonment fraud, and then we're going to get you out, but we're going to own you. We're going to run you like a puppet.
Yeah.
I never wanted to play with these, but that's what I busted. That's how bad the corruption in Atlanta under Sally Yates, the person that attacked Trump, was. So I stung all that. I've seen that. But when I hear somebody like Zach Ista say, well, it's not fair to talk about these police officers who aren't here, I want to make it real clear. I think the cops in Minot are great. I think the cops in North Dakota are awesome. I don't know all of them. I have no doubt there's plenty of corrupt cops in this area and across the state, but the vast majority of them I've dealt with are far better than the big cities I've been to. They're people, they're humans. I know the solution into getting the corrupt cops out and promoting the good cops is to expose the corruption and hold people accountable.
Transparency.
Exactly. So I watched that, and I watched this man, and I watched Rob Port say, you must have done something wrong. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. You don't have to do anything wrong for a cop to pull you over. I've had a cop pull me over and literally came up to my truck, and he said, do you know why I pulled you over? I said, no, sir, I don't know why you pulled me over. He said, what year is it? And I told him what year it was. I thought this man must think I'm on drugs or something. Did I do something stupid? Did I run? I mean, it was a big hot rod truck. It was, big lifted, restored Suburban. I thought, did I run over a curb or something? Or did I miss something here? And he says, no. What year is the truck? I said, you pulled me over because you like my truck. And he says, yeah, he wanted to buy it. And he wanted me to give him a deal.
No.
I was highly upset about that. I had another instance, and it's, police officer pulled me over and tried to take my truck and my guns, and he was going to give me a DUI. His excuse was he smelled alcohol in my passenger's breath when he walked up to my passenger's window for no reason whatsoever. But let me tell you who rescued me from that. A bunch of other cops.
Yeah.
This police officer made a big deal about it, thought he'd cause a big scene. A bunch of other cops showed up, gave me a breathalyzer, said, this man hasn't been drinking. He's sober. What are you doing? Give him his guns back and let him go.
Yeah.
But the guy was determined to lock me up because he liked my truck. There are really cops out there. This kind of thing really happens. So when I hear your story and I hear somebody like Zach Ista say, we're not going to let you talk about what happened without the police being here to defend themselves.
Which is funny because I wasn't naming anybody. I was naming, it's like I'm naming myself.
You filed a lawsuit, right?
Not for the particular story that he was asking about.
Okay.
About when they were going to try and plant drugs on me.
Right.
But
you didn't name anybody. Yeah, there's no.
No, so
and you didn't say where it happened or anything.
That's
right?
why I made that reference afterwards. After I was off the air, I'm like, they should have sent a professional prosecutor because I'm like.
Well, he is a professional prosecutor.
Yeah, but he wasn't very professional about it because I'm like, what an idiot.
Just a prosecutor.
Can't defend themselves. When I say the police, that is an entity. It's not a person.
Well, here's the best part about it was I watched him say that they're not going to let you explain yourself, why you're running, what kind of corruption you're going to defend us from, and how you've seen this. But then they wouldn't let you tell a story because these mysterious people that did you wrong in Florida that you haven't named are not here to defend themselves. And then they came back on, they took a break, and they said, no, with you. And they came back on, and they started saying how you're crazy.
Yeah.
And how you deserve whatever happened to you. You must have done something wrong. And I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm like, wow, by their own standard, they're just completely being unfair to a political candidate.
Total hypocrisy.
It just really made me sick because what I see is someone who is standing up and saying, because most people don't. Most people, when they're wronged, They don't. They just get mad and they hate cops, and and I'm like, here's a guy that sees the problem and he doesn't hate cops and he wants to fix the problem. And then I see you apparently had some stuff online before you ever ran for office. And this man has gone and dug something up where and he's calling you crazy, say it because you said something about mask mandate. And one day they're going to push this. They're going to make us all mask up and get vaccinated. And turns out they did that, right?
Right, but the post he was referring to was a warning post before the 2024 election, under suspicion of ways that they could try and steal it and interrupt it. And great, thankful it didn't happen. But it's like after everything I saw, like 2020, day one of the shutdown. And when I say day one, I mean the first minute. As soon as I heard about the shutdown, remember Trump had just been acquitted. They tried to impeach him. He's just been acquitted. And then they do this shutdown. And the first phone call I got was from my business partner for my downtown business, for my other business, saying, we got to shut down, we got to do this. And I said, don't you know this is about the election? This is about the election. It's not real. This shutdown and the...
It's a manufacturer. You think it's manufactured panic. Okay,
yeah,
I hear
sure,
what you're
is there
saying.
a virus out there? Yeah. Whatever. But my point is they're manufacturing an emergency to disrupt the election. And on that day, I predicted mail-in ballots. Nobody had ever said such a thing. So anyway, I started making all these predictions, and people were like, you should start eventually posting these, and like saying these things because you've been right so far for 3 years in a row, 2020, 21, 22, 23 even.
Right.
And then 2024, my prediction, not a prediction necessarily, but I labeled it as a way that it could happen, like a warning. I told people things that could happen with the election. It didn't happen, but now for Zach to go after me for that, here's what's most interesting. Zach... being familiar with me right before going on a show with me would make sense that he'd get on and dig for something.
Right.
But I'd pulled that post down about a year and a half ago.
So how was he able to get it?
It was up there, but I have a small following and stuff. It's not like it got a lot of views. And so my point is, how long has he or his constituents been watching me? How long have his people
okay,
been
so
watching me?
his people, like he's a state's attorney. His people, his boss is Drew Wrigley.
Yeah.
Now I busted Drew Wrigley running organized crime with FISA. That's my accusation against the acting attorney general, or the attorney general of North Dakota. He was previously the U.S. attorney when I ran a sting. Yep. Okay, so and I'm getting ready to show you something you haven't seen yet. I'm gonna show you how right you are.
Okay.
Because these guys want to call you a conspiracy theorist, and when you come in and you say, "Yeah, I'm concerned about them manipulating the illegal immigrants," the migrant workers, because the migrant workers are accountable to the feds. The feds can manipulate them. Okay, they can decide whether you stay or you go. And I've recorded that many times in my case, and I've recorded many different immigrants coming and manipulating me. And I've got one that you're going to be like, wow, that's incredible, because it's going to be Drew Wrigley's man. Okay, which ISTA now is Drew Wrigley's man, but when Drew Wrigley was the U.S. attorney, it's going to be some immigrants that come and they pass a real loud message to me, and the message is, we can plant stuff in your truck, we can frame you, and we can make it stick. And I got him on video. I told you I was a spy hunter.
Yep.
They all want to laugh and mock. He's crazy. Okay. I'm going to play some videos today, and I'm going to ask you whether you saw that, and if you heard it, because if you saw it and you heard it, then I'm not crazy. It really happened. Yeah. Now, you could say I'm corrupt and I made it up. I created it, that I'm just a liar and a con man. But that's not criminally insane. That's not crazy, okay? There's two radically different things here. And what I'm going to show you is this man, Zach Ista, that has told you to the nation when you couldn't defend yourself after he admitted that was unfair to North Dakota, that said in Rob Port joining him, did just some sane washing that needs to go on here. This man's crazy. I'm going to show you that you are dead on right, and he is the chief suspect. Yeah. So...
And for the record,
again, this case, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and it's like they made a point to, obviously he brought him on to try and pin me, to try and discredit me and stuff. It's like, we're talking as far as like my mayor run, it's like, that's like this much of what my mayor run is about.
Right.
And it's like,
he's trying to find something he can use against. He's a prosecuting attorney.
Well, but it's like, it's one of my platform points because it's something that's so different.
And he's got something that he pulled out of a blog long before you ever ran it. You said you took off the internet. So how deep state is this? That's just really disturbing to me. That really, really bothers me. But I could see it, and I wanted to call him out on it. So the case that you were talking about was a case where police pulled you over, and they liked your truck, and obviously somebody wanted your truck, and you said, you can't search my truck, I'm not giving you permission, and you said they walked by you and you smelled marijuana on them. So this is a case here in North Dakota when I'm a witness against Drew Wrigley for using the spy agencies to run FISA fraud, a racket. The whole reason they're keeping me quiet and keeping me from coming forward in the nation's most important investigation is because they're caught up in using FISA to pillage the national treasury and fraud. So I'm in this case where I'm screaming that this guy's a criminal, and I got these guys that one of them says he tells me he's an illegal immigrant. Okay, now I catch him in my truck, and he's out there asking about pills. In my case, the pills, the U.S. attorney, because when I stung Sally Yates, I agreed. I was like, no, y'all, I just stung her. I just was ad-libbing, but we agreed that I would act like I was delusional, not a threat to anybody, but I was delusional. That's what they would say. And so now they're really trying hard to push that agenda. It's complicated. It's in my case. But what I'm going to show you is 2 Latinos in my truck. And that they're asking me about pills, and that they plant something in my truck to point out that they can plant it and they can make it stick. This is really, really scary. Go ahead.
Well, for context, I'm sure your audience is already familiar with this, but for anyone that I share this with, a lot of people don't understand and don't realize that when he says like they like your truck, they want to steal your truck, it's because with the finding of drugs under was it Biden's crime bill in '94, whatever it is, they can take possession. They can seize your vehicle, and I've seen departments do that before. There was, I think it was in Idaho, but don't quote me on the state, where they took a Z06 Corvette, high performance, like 640 horsepower Corvette.
Yeah, they seize it.
And they seize it, and they wrapped it in the police colors and stuff. There's not even a back seat to put a perp in, but they said don't worry, this isn't tax dollars. We seized it from a drug dealer. It's like
they can take it and auction it off and buy it themselves.
Yeah.
Now I've got a friend whose relative right here next door in Montana bought some property that was previously used to raise hemp on. All right. Not marijuana that you smoke, not marijuana that has any market value for illicit drug use. Hemp that's used to make rope, all right?
Yeah.
And some of the hemp had continued to grow on this old hemp farm, and investigators framed this guy and then put him in jail and charged him with being a major drug trafficker, and somehow made it stick. And I'm talking to people, I know this guy. You know who bought that property? It was the investigator in the case. That's the kind of stuff. It happens. It's real. I've seen it. I've lived it. I've watched them try to do this to me. But I want to play you a video of an immigrant getting in my truck. I catch him. I catch him on video, and he's going to admit it. So let's go with clip number 7, please.
Huh?
What were y'all doing in my truck?
No, he was just seeing how your view was. Because he like...
Y'all were both up there.
Huh?
Y'all were both in there.
Yeah, because I was talking to him. Yeah.
So I said, what's he doing in my truck? I've done this before.
you liked your view.
And he says, oh, he was seeing how your view was up there. And you can't hear it very well. But what I said to him was, I said, y'all were both up in there. And he's like, yeah, because I was talking to him. So this is right here in Williston. Oh. And this guy's, I go in, and one guy's in my truck. It's my work truck. One guy's in my truck, and there's two guys in there. And then I'm not going to go show you all the video, but I got all the documentation. I caught them, I'm going to videotape them over, and we're going to talk about it. They start asking me if I have any pills. We're going through my truck, seeing if I have any pills. No, they want to say, you're crazy. That's the storyline for me to get this massive settlement. That I'm like, it's this thing. I busted these people. I'm not playing along with it. I'm not acting like I'm delusional. I'm not crazy. But that's the game. So they keep asking me about these pills. And I go back in, and I fish them on that, and I catch them on that. And record it. And then I get in my truck and I go to work. The next morning when I wake up and I change clothes, I got strands of fiberglass in my skivvies. They can make it stick.
Oh.
The point is, they can plant something in your truck and make it stick. They weren't trying to plant drugs in my truck that time. They were threatening me. It was a message, but who controls those people? That was Drew Wrigley. If those people are, undocumented residents, dreamers, whatever, who can control their status and manipulate them to do something like that? Drew Wrigley, Mr. Eista's boss.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the same guy that accused you, that's sitting here going, you're delusional. We need some sane washing here. And he says, you don't live in the same world that he says, you don't live in the same world that we live in. He doesn't. This is his words. Josiah Roise doesn't live in the same world I live in. Well, I happen to agree with him on that.
I do too.
I think the voting citizens of Minot, North Dakota, agree with him on that. But I think you live in the same world they live in. I think that the vast majority of the people here in Minot, North Dakota that vote don't want somebody on the inside club. In fact, we down here at the convention made a big statement that said we don't want guys like Drew Wrigley to use the R on their name if they're not going to act like Republicans. Yeah. We brought them into office, and now they're not accountable and not doing anything right. We want their name off it. I think the vast majority of the citizens have a right to see who you are and what you stand for and make a decision without somebody presenting you as some whack job. Now I'm gonna play something for you, and here's the thing, because they try to intimidate. They try to intimidate and they try to malign and lie to the citizens. So I'm gonna play something for you, and I want you to watch this because I'm gonna ask you some real tough questions. Because what our citizens, this is what I'm hearing when I talk to people in my campaign. They're wildly, and I mean wildly supportive of me when they see what I've done and what I'm about. But they have a good clue as to what's going on, that they're being lied to and tricked. And so as I've come forward and said, I'm the nation's most important unheard eyewitness in the biggest investigation that has everything to do with our national security, I've made a recording. I'm going to tell you what it is, and you can look at it and you can make your own decisions. This happened in 2017 when our country was overthrown, when Sally Yates signed the FISA warrant against Trump. I have somebody following me come over the CB radio in my truck, and this is what they say to me. Clip number 8, please.
You and every single one of the people that was involved with orchestrating this for their own personal satisfaction, means, and desires. And there's not a one of them going to sit in that seat and going to lie. Not a one of them.
This is fantastic. See, what you got here is you got somebody that just came on as soon as I got in the truck.
And then when they get through, let me tell you what would be the results here. When they got through with the court hearing, they would be putting the handcuffs on every damn single one of them, and they'd be going to prison. And if you don't believe it's true, do it. Just put it together. I dare you to. I dare you to.
Well, now maybe there's something wrong with my math. But what that guy says when he comes over the CB on my truck is he says, you and every single one of the people that orchestrated this. I stung them. Okay, so you heard what he said, right? I mean, you saw I had to do some work to get a transcript up there so you could read it and understand it a little better. But I'm not imagining that, right? No. I mean, you saw that and you heard that. So one of two things is either I made that up, I created this, and I'm just a fraud, or else that really happened. But can you, in my math, there's these two different is there another option that falls in here somewhere that says I'm crazy because I saw that and my story lines up with that?
Definitely not crazy.
Well,
right. It's either true or you orchestrated it and it's fraud.
Right.
What if I may ask, what clued you in to start like, did you miss a message before that? Like, did you start coming on the CB and you missed the first message in the recording?
I had been followed and documented messages being passed over the CB so many times that I had a video camera that I could grab pretty quick and put up there. But notice I said some guy just came up. I didn't get the first part of it. It took me a minute to get the video. That's why I said some guy just come over my truck, and it goes on. He does it a couple different times. The first time he's trying to help me, tell me how to coach me through this. You know, he's saying because of what's going on now, you know, you've got a golden opportunity. I got a banker that'll back you. He says all this different stuff that proves it's a conspiracy. Okay, so now our nation is investigating a grand conspiracy. That's the biggest investigation in the nation. And I'm saying I'm the eyewitness against the person that signed the FISA warrant against Trump, and I provide evidence, it's all over my website, that a group of people are preventing me from being heard. Now, nobody's come forward and said that man's crazy. Strangers have, the same kind of strangers that got on and, you know, started that kind of nonsense with you. And I was able to prove that those guys had their straws in the federal money.
Well, you know what? Let's just strip this down for a quick second. When it comes to calling somebody crazy, when you're talking about corruption, if you were to talk about, hey, a contractor screwed me over, you know, I ordered these materials, he was supposed to put in top-notch stuff, he put in some cheap plank flooring, thought I wouldn't notice, right. And he screwed me over. Nobody goes, well, you're delusional. you're
Right.
freaking psycho. That would never happen. No contractor would do that.
Right.
So when you talk about, like, name one organization, one demographic where there's zero corruption. And so when you try and say, "Hey, corrupt cop," and people go, "Oh, you're psycho."
Right. Or you hate cops.
There's
yeah.
no way. There's no way. So
Right.
for me as a contractor, do you think, especially for when people say, "Well, I'm a cop," and I can tell you no cop would do that, and it's like, I would
Right.
never tell somebody, trust every contractor out there.
Right.
They're not going to screw you over. Whatever they want to charge you, pay it because it's honest. I would never say that.
Right.
I would
Exactly.
never push that.
Exactly. That's precisely where I stand. But that's precisely where the American citizens stand. And the real people that I talk to, not the people that are, working for Drew Wrigley or Nick Chase and, in top government positions that have spies that work for them and, can get FISA warrants to intercept phone calls and do all the weird stuff that these people have had positions to do. What I want to ask you a really, really tough question. And to me, it's not that tough of a question.
Okay.
But to me, I look at this and I'm like, this is what the citizens really want. The citizens want somebody that's going to stand up here and do something different. They're all screaming for accountability, and that's what you're running on. They're all screaming for transparency, and that's what you're running for. I live here in Minot. So if you become the mayor of Minot, you're going to be my mayor. I have been to every single proper authority, and including Janser, and said, hey, I'm an eyewitness in the nation's top investigation. And there is a law that holds, when our country was established, if you knew, and it's still a law today, if you know of someone or a group that is planning to overthrow your country, it's called the law of misprision of treason. If there is a treasonous plot and you're aware of it, you are required by law to come forward to the proper authorities, and they name them: the governor, the president, the federal judges, etc. I've gone to all these people, and they've set up their own policies that violate the requirements of the law and the citizens.
Yeah.
None of them have said, I had a local reporter here from Minot, Tommy James, go down to the governor's office with me and sit down with him, and they're like, we're not going to do anything about it. I'm like, that's a felony.
No kidding.
It's called misprision of treason. It carries 8 years. But so nobody has had the courage to stand up and say, hey, this man says he's an eyewitness in the grand conspiracy investigation. He's got evidence up online. I've seen it. I'm not verifying. I'm not asking anybody to verify that it's true. I'm just asking somebody to make some noise and get me to the proper authority. Because if an FBI agent wants to come look at my evidence and say, this isn't legitimate, this is where he faked it, this is where he made this up, then I got a name to go back and say, this is the person that obstructed the investigation.
Yeah.
And nobody will put a name on it. But so what I want to know from you is, if you become the mayor and I sit there and I show you, you think about it, you ask me a couple questions, okay, and I'm able to line up and lay it all down and say, there's a top national investigation into the security of America. Because again, if it's corrupt at the top, it's really hard to keep things straight down here. The people that are holding us accountable can't be on their own. The guy that's robbing the bank ain't doing a real good job of babysitting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what I want to know from you is, if you become mayor of Minot, North Dakota, and I come to you and I present this evidence, will you go to the proper authorities? Will you call the governor and say, Governor, there's a man here that should be heard in the top national investigation. I need you to pass that up the ladder. Will you call the local news stations and what's there and say, hey guys, y'all should be covering this story? I'm not asking you to go to the president's door and, spend your life, but will you make the necessary effort required by law to at least see that my case is heard and handled in the proper fashion?
Not only would I put in that effort on day one, because like you said, I'm running on, what inspired me to run was having seen corruption up close that nobody will touch. And when people say, oh, if they violate you, just get a lawyer. There's not one
There's
lawyer.
no lawyers. Yeah.
There is no lawyer in North Dakota that will touch a case against the police. That's why I had to learn. And that when people said, why'd you wait until you're running for mayor? The time lineup was 6 years statute of limitations to file that suit. And that was in the same time frame. I filed, I started running for mayor, and I filed that lawsuit on the 6-year deadline day. Pro se, I had to learn how to do it myself. It was a lot of work, especially while trying to run for mayor and stuff too.
Well, we don't want that. The citizens of Minot, North Dakota, in fact, the citizens of this entire country do not want our government to be like that.
No.
That's why I see what you're doing. I look at what you're doing, and I'm like, this guy should be heard, and he shouldn't be just brought on a show that's a hit job.
Yeah.
Listen, man, you got my support.
Well, day one, I would be going after yours, and I'm happy to say with the connections that I've made in the last year running for mayor, because, like you said about the wild amount of support that you have from some demographics versus others, you know, some people around here like to look down at me and call me crazy and try to belittle me. But the thing is,
you built your own company.
I travel across this nation with my message, and I shake hands with giants. You know, and at this point, I'm 2 phone calls away from Trump in 3 different ways. So it's like, as far as getting that message up, sure, I'll pass it to the governor, but I'll tell the governor, look, man, if you're not going to do this, I'll get this word right to the president.
And call him out. Hey, how come the governor won't do his job? I mean, there's people all across the state that are screaming about these people, the governor and the attorney general, not doing their job, not doing it right. They want them recalled. They want them out. I understand that. I appreciate your time. I wish we had more time to chat.
Me too.
But if I want to vote, how do I vote for you right here in Minot, North Dakota?
Well, the election is June 9th, and the city election takes place at the municipal auditorium.
Okay.
And there's ways to get a hold of my information, and if you want to donate, and that's at paccpc.org. Okay. And that's PAC, PAC, not with like the K, you know, right. So it's just paccpc.org. That's where all my information is. There's other guys running with me in that same pack, and we share this constitutional passion together. Awesome. We're running together to try and make it happen.
So what if I got I got to work. I got to get an absentee ballot. How do I go about that?
You go to the county building.
Okay.
There's an election office there, and you request your ballot that way and turn it in early. Although I'll tell you, I just spent the last few days with an election integrity expert, and if you can make it in on election day, that is a lot more secure than going in with an absentee ballot beforehand. That's something I've got my own episode we'll be doing for my studio, for my office, telling about the election integrity issues.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate what you stand for. I appreciate your courage. You're cut from a different cloth, and I think that's what a lot of people in Minot want to see. And so, best of wishes to you.
Thank you very much.
Again, have a great day. I appreciate you. We'll see you, Josiah Roise.